afternoon.
I don't think I'm as funny as the gentleman that was here before, but I think you'll find this interesting also.
Indeed.
I'll try to be funny. Okay, my name is Dwight Geddes. I'm an insurance professional, been in the industry now for over 25 years. And I'm an insurance broker. I'm also an insurance claims adjuster. I run an adjusting company based out of New York. On the claims side, we've been part of about a dozen natural disasters over the last decade or so, all across the country. I've literally spent nights in Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. Cape Cod is nice. Not in the wintertime though. But I and my team, we have gone to these different places when there have been natural disasters and we work to help bring the people back to the position they were in before, which is the goal. That being said, I'm also on the national board of an organization called the National African American Insurance Association. It's right there. So, what are we going to talk about? What's in store? We're going to talk about where we are as an industry. We're going to look at it national perspective, global perspective. I'm going to give you some facts and figures because those are always good. Facts and figures are awesome, so I can back up what I'm saying. We're going to talk about what's happening on the ground, and we're going to look at what the opportunities and or solutions are. Okay. Gentlemen, before I just had the World Economic Forum Global Risk Survey up, and I'm referring to it here. Over the last few years, the World Economic Forum is climate risk atop the list of global concerns. I followed this list and I followed it for about 10 years. It was interesting because 10 years ago, terrorism was the number one concern. As a matter of fact, I think terrorism was 1, 2, and 3. Wow. Yeah. And about 5 years ago, it became involuntary mass migration was the biggest global concern. Because what's happening in this country isn't just happening in this country. It's happening across the globe. You hear about the boats sinking, trying to get from Northern Africa to Europe. You may not hear about the trucks going across Europe, taking migrants from one country where the economy isn't doing as well to another country. So this is a global issue. Climate change, however, and climate risk has always been in the top 10, but was never the main issue until now. Climate risk is taking a seat of prominence. Cybersecurity, which also we didn't know about 15 years ago. In Asia, experts have ranked pandemic risk, in other words, another COVID, second, ahead of involuntary migration and terrorism. But in all of these areas, climate risk is the main issue. What are we talking about when we talk about climate risk? This is the definition of climate risk as said by the United Nations. Long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. Primarily caused by burning fossil fuels that generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the earth, trapping the sun's heat and rising temperatures. That is the best description I've ever heard for climate change, because in essence, that's exactly what it is. And how does that affect us? In 2022, there were 10 global climate-fueled extreme weather events that caused more than $3 billion in damage each. 10. Cost list being Hurricane Ian, which struck Florida and caused more than $100 million in damage.
Let me interject. I spent 72 days without power in my house. Ian hit us first in Puerto Rico. It was a nightmare.
I was in Sarasota and Tampa for 4 months after the end, working.
I almost ended up in a beat down over gas with the guy that was bigger and muskier than me. Street, like rip off the door handle, what could I?
These are the things that happen.
72 days, no power, no food.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess you probably also had experience after Maria.
That was it. I'm not a Trump voter, let's put it that way. Towel did not help.
No, not at all. In total, there were 18 weather climate disaster events with losses exceeding 1 billion. So to recap, there were 10 that were in excess of 3 billion. There were 18 that were in excess of 1 billion in that category. These events included a drought, flooding, 11 severe storm events, 3 tropical cyclones. And for the point of reference, cyclone doesn't necessarily mean a hurricane. On the East Coast, the Atlantic hurricane, it also means on the West Coast. 1 wildfire event, thank you, California, and 1 winter storm event. Again, this is 2022. This is telling. Between 1980 and 2022, the annual average of these billion-dollar events was 7.9 per year. Between 2018 and 2022, it's 17.8 events per year. We've gone up considerably in the last few years.
No, but the petroleum companies will tell you that that is not statistically significant.
Sure.
Gazprom?
What's that saying about men lie, women lie? And 2023, a year with no major hurricanes made their landfall in the US. There was 1 storm, I think, but I don't think it was a major storm. We had 28 billion-dollar disasters around the country. So again, between 1980 and 2022, we had 7.9. Between 2018 and 2022, that period right there, 17.8. Last year, we had 28 in 1 year.
Wow.
And we had no major hurricanes. Those are all the events that we have. So to say it's becoming an issue for all of us, total cost of the 28 disasters was 92.9 billion. But that may rise by several billion when the cost of the December East Coast storm and flooding events are fully accounted for. Because it takes them some time to figure out all the payments and so on. But that's what we're looking at. By the way, Ian, in and of itself, Ian was $110 billion worth of damage. Ian was the strongest storm to hit Florida. And I keep telling people that if that storm had not veered a little south right before it made landfall, there would be no more Tampa Bay. It was bad. There were bridges and highways that are gone. Just gone. So 2023, global perspective. The floods in Libya, over 11,000 people. Morocco had an earthquake. China had several floods that caused extreme death and costs. The Atlantic hurricane season, North American wildfires, Cyclone Mocha in the Bay of Bengal, US tornadoes, Turkey, Syria earthquake, and the heat wave, August 23rd to 24th.
How has this affected the reinsurance market?
Excuse me?
The reinsurance market, how has it been adapting to this?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that. So, on October 11, 2023, Claims Journal Industry Magazine published the results of a Lloyd's of London research that said global economic losses could reach 5 trillion under a plausible increase in extreme weather events linked to climate change over the next 5 years. That's a lot of money. Australia. Just want to go through some of these really quickly because it's more for information, just give you some facts on things that are happening around the globe. You have Australia with the flooding. 70% of Australians live in an area affected by flooding in 2022. China. Chinese insurance companies received 260,600 claims of damages caused by recent floods, affecting 16 regions of the country. And the Turkey-Syria earthquake, which was horrible, 58,000 casualties. The biggest contributor to insurance losses in the first half of 2023 were those earthquakes. Let's bring it back now onshore. Florida. We have an issue here with a lot of companies leaving these states, Florida, Louisiana, Texas. They're leaving the coastal states because they're getting hammered. I'll make sure you have all of this information so you can take a look at it later, but because I think I'm limited for time here. California. Companies are leaving California in droves also. Okay? Because California basically had the 4 seasons in like a month. They had droughts, they had floods, they had wildfires, they had snow, they had everything. Those are all the $22 billion disasters that we had. Right here, State Farm and farmers account for more than 20% of the California property and casualty insurance market. Both State Farm and farmers have left California in 2023. In 2022, they had 1 in 5 homeowners insurance policy in California, and they're gone. Texas, they don't have enough money to pay right now if they got hit by a major storm. They don't. This is the 28 storms from last year. Okay, we'll go right past this because okay. So, global perspective from the World Bank. 70% of the largest cities in Europe have areas vulnerable to rising sea levels. 70%. 17, Africa has at least 19 vulnerable coastal cities with a population of more than 1 million. Okay? In the US, East Coast cities including Norfolk, Baltimore, Charleston, Miami have already experienced sunny day flooding due to rising sea levels. Do you guys remember last year? They got hit by a random heavy rain and all of South Florida flooded? Yeah. Economic impacts are highly concentrated geographically with sea level vulnerabilities interact with high value property and infrastructure. 4 cities account for 43% of average annual losses. Guangzhou, Miami, New Orleans. Because, you know, we're New York, so let it be everything.
That was a good job.
So, this is interesting though, and I do want to spend a minute talking about this. You get hit with a 100-year flood, right? They always talk about this 100-year disaster, once in 100 years, okay. Amsterdam's exposure to 100-year flood is more than double that. Estimated US 83 billion versus US 38 billion. Okay, but what's the difference? Amsterdam has put protection in place because 2/3 of the country is on the water, is below sea level. So they have protection in place. So their average annual losses is 3 million. Rainstorms, whatever, 3 million. Compared with US 687 million and China, where they have not put the infrastructure in place to prevent and protect against these issues. Where will we see the effects? Roads, railways, ports, internet, potable water, agriculture, and population migration. This is where it's going to affect us. This is where we're going to see it. This is where we need to look. Because all of these affect all of us.
Yeah.
Opportunities and solutions. I like opportunities and I like solutions. I'm not gonna just tell you the problem. I'm gonna give you special solutions. Okay, all right, I'm gonna talk faster. Okay. Climate change, cybercrime, intensifying focus in insurance industry capacity and readiness to react as a financial safety net. Okay? Reacting is not good enough. You gotta be proactive at this point. Pivot from predictive analytics to preventive actions. We've seen that in Amsterdam. Even before there was climate change, they realized they had an issue, so they took steps to safeguard against it. 2/3 of the global population expected to live in cities by 2050. Living in cities, and you talk about 800 million people in more than 570 coastal cities, that's the hotspot. That's where it's happening. So the use of sensors, aerial imaging, predictive models, AI analysis of data. They're doing something right now with AI on wildfires, where AI can tell you where a fire is going to start before it starts, before it becomes a wildfire. The slightest spot, because a lot of the wildfires in California are caused by utilities. So if there's a down pole anywhere, a live wire, on the ground, they will be able to send resources there right away to deal with that. These are the kind of things that we're seeing now with AI, the good side of AI. And parametric insurance, very important. Alternative insurance contracts, which we'll also see right now as a result of more digital technology. Because what they're doing is they're saying, okay, you live in this area got hit by a storm. They have automatic thresholds, and once that automatic threshold is met, you're going to be sent a payment, period. There is no sending someone like me out, or any of my people. There's no going back and forth. You're here. This is what happened, here's a check. Will it work? I don't know, but it's a solution. So, National Association of Insurance Commissioners is also coming out with a climate resilience strategy for insurance, which is again relying on a lot of data to help to be proactive with dealing with these, because climate change and issues about these losses are the biggest cost right now in the insurance industry globally. And we talked about using AI. I don't want to go through all of this. It's a lot of reading. I don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. So, again, I did want to leave a couple of minutes. Do I have a couple of minutes?
One.
I have 1 minute.
We need Q&A. So.
Call fast. Q&A, let's go.
How much are you collaborating with the banking industry? Because I don't know, if insurance goes away, I don't know how we ever get a mortgage for anything ever again.
Yeah. Well, the insurance is part of the greater financial services industry. And a lot of banks have insurance companies. So there is a certain degree of collaboration there. But what we're seeing now is that there's a lot of what's needed has to be driven by those who are being directly affected. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of those, I mean, it's, what was the term from the last one, whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yes, short answer, yes, do work with banks. Yes, sir.
Thank you for a very enlightening presentation.
I appreciate that, but he's gonna cut me off, so you
No, go ahead,
get to
go
the
ahead.
point.
Yeah. So the issue are very serious, very real, and I'm looking at the quantitative part of it. And I think since you come from the business part, the insurance company, we're looking at some model, like scenario analysis or other model that can help inform decision makers, politicians. And are you willing to help us with the data? That's one side of my question. And the other part is, you talk about Texas and how these issues are real. Why do you think in America we're so behind? Why is it that certain states are still not able to see those numbers. So resisting those movement to integrate environmental issues into a day-to-day concern.
I'm not sure I understand the second part of what you said, as far as why certain states not seeing it.
Yeah,
That's a great question. I've always wondered why we get so many tornadoes in the US and you don't see them in other countries. They do have. See it, I'm sorry.
I think just picking up on that, is there a communication input from the ground levels to notify the authorities or government that here we have a potential problem, it's a red flag, do something about it and do something about it now? How serious are they taking that perhaps warning, should they give it?
The interaction between regulators, the
Yeah,
government,
yeah.
and the insurance industry is not as cordial as the relationship between insurance companies and the bank.
Yeah.
And even regulators' job is to get money from insurance companies. That's their job. Under the
really
guise of helping.
So the response is as the strength actually lies in the weakest link.
Well, they've left it up to private industry, to the insurance industry to take care of it. And they're not offering guidelines, but what will happen is that if you do something and it becomes an issue, then you'll get fined. But we're not telling you that this is the wrong way to do it. But if there becomes an outcry later on, you're gonna get hit with a fine.
But isn't
So there is
that,
no guidance.
isn't that why the insurance industry is
One
starting
second.
to?
Sorry.
This is personal. 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my house. The bottom is shaking. It's an earthquake, and I'm in denial. It's like, that only happens in California. Tell me what happened.
Was an earthquake. By the way, I was home, I didn't feel it. My wife came running into the room, did you feel it? I didn't feel a thing, I didn't even know until I heard everybody talking about it.
Your presentation is scary.
Yeah.
We're in scary time, we're in scary time.
I'm like, we have nowhere to run. We're in New York, in Miami, in Texas. We can't hide.
Professor Price?
No, the gentleman
Oh,
here.
yeah, so one of the things that the insurance industry I've heard is asking for is that the government comes in and guarantees a portion of the risk, right?
They already do.
Through
They already do.
But they want that expanded, in other words, they want some sort of pooling that the government guarantees, right?
Yes,
Because the pooling isn't working, you've got too much uncertainty moving forward, so you can't determine what the correct pooling is, because the math is all whacked now because of all this craziness.
we could spend another day talking
About
about
that.
flood risk and FEMA and how that all came about, because that is a fascinating story
It's a
right there.
mess, yeah.
Has a lot to do with redlining, discrimination, and so on, but we can't get into that today because that is just a long story. But the government already backstops a lot of this.
Good.
FEMA funds the flood program. Insurance companies offer policies for flood. When they pay on the claims, they submit it to the federal government and they're reimbursed. So the federal government is already backstopping. The problem is that you may live in an area that's not considered a flood zone, and you get flooded, which we've seen happen right here in New York,
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
talking
you're
about,
not covered.
that's what I'm talking about.
Your insurance company won't cover you, you don't have flood insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I had a quick question, since you look at your data and so forth, Dean Road was talking about the earthquake, but Jersey, New York don't make the fault line. But my question is, so where should we live? I'm serious, where do you think?
I've had this discussion with my wife. And I settled on Vegas,
Vegas.
because nothing happens in the desert.
Yes, you run out of water.
They already ran out of water, that's why they were desert. But nothing, you're not gonna have tornadoes, you're not gonna have earthquakes, you're not gonna have hurricanes, it's desert.
We'll turn everyone into gamblers, shall we?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not investments.